Hey guys, welcome back. This is going to be such an exciting episode. This is a We Really Love Island How Come crossover episode. So exciting. 2 podcasts, 1 great episode for your listening pleasure. This episode came out a little early this week because we're going to do 2 episodes. We've got this crossover, and then we've got another episode coming out on Sunday for your regularly scheduled programming. If you love it, obviously, tell us. Go on iTunes, rate us, review us, subscribe, please. We love when you say nice things, but also, we need you to say nice things. It really helps out the podcast, and we can't keep going without your support. And you guys have brought us to this point. Let's take a little further. Let's tell more people about Love Island and How Come. Go on iTunes, review, leave us a 5-star review. Tell us how you like this episode. Go on Instagram, follow us, How Come Podcast. Also follow We Really Love Island. How Come Podcast, we are to 10,000 followers. So exciting. We're really trying to get that swipe up so we can share way more information with you, fun stuff, articles, etc. BuzzFeed quizzes. We've got this fun BuzzFeed quiz that's should I put this up my butt? A lot of the answers are no. So follow us, How Come Podcast on Instagram, We Really Love Island on Instagram, both of those things on Twitter. We are always tweeting. And yeah, get ready for this episode. We recorded a few months ago. It was before season 5 of Love Island. The current season came out. So when we're talking about this past season, we're talking about season 4. Current season of Love Island is amazing. There's also an American version that just came out, which we're watching, and we're going to talk about that too. But get excited. We're interviewing Love Island contestant Chris Williamson from season 1, and he's going to tell us about everything behind the scenes. We're also talking love, relationships, STD screenings, the glorification of stupidity on British TV shows, and he tells us about all of the secrets behind Love Island. They're going to blow your dicks off. They blew my mind. We also talk about relationships, how to break up with someone properly, managing mental health. We talk about everything. And it's so exciting to have this guest because fewer people have been on Love Island than have climbed Mount Everest, okay? It's a big deal. More people apply to Love Island every year than Oxford, and Oxford has a smaller rejection rate. So we got this guy. You're going to love him. Even if you didn't love him on the show, which we didn't, you'll really enjoy this episode. Welcome to We Really Love Island.
How come? How come?
This episode we're talking about
I wanna jizz.
Are you recording? I'm recording. I just waved at Chris Williamson. Hey, you guys. Welcome to How Come We Really Love Island crossover episode. Ooh. I'm sitting here with Charlotte, of course.
Hi.
And one of my best friends, Lili Michelle. Hi, Lili. We just finished season 2, and I host every season of We Really Love Island with a different pal and Love Island fan. So Emily Wilson was season 1 with me, and Lili just did season 2 with me. I'm going to do season 3, season 4. We're going to do season 5, and we're also going to be recapping the American Love Island that just came out on CBS. We watched episode by episode, and then we dissect it episode by episode and talk about how it's changed the conversation of love and gender and sex. And yeah,
it's been my favorite.
It's the best show of all time.
It's so good. Do you remember? Wait, Charlotte, do you remember when you didn't watch it? And
yeah, and I shit on you so much for it. I was like, "What is this trash you're watching?" And
you're
now
stop talking about it.
So oh my god! Wait, in this very living room,
living room,
we were watching Bachelor in Paradise.
Yes, and you kept changing the conversation. And I was like, "Guys, I can't participate in this conversation."
And we were like, "But Love Island is so good." And you were like, "Well, then maybe we should just watch that." And we were like, "Yeah."
And then we did.
Yeah.
And I haven't stopped since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. This new season of the American version just came out this past Tuesday, July 9th on CBS. They're releasing it the same exact way with an episode every night. And we want to talk about it on this episode, but me and Allie Weiss will be covering it in the new season of We Really Love Island and discussing what they get right, but probably about how America is going to fuck it up.
They're going to
ruin everything else.
Everything.
Yeah.
It just won't be the same.
Except The Office. The Office we did a good job with.
It's true. But the language.
Yeah, you're not going to
mug off, pie off, banter.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Oh my God. If you guys haven't listened to the We Really Love Island podcast, or if you are listening to it right now, you already know this. But yeah, we do vocab at the end of every episode, and you learn how to talk like a proper fit Brit.
I feel like on the American Love Island, they're going to be like good vibes instead of like good banter.
Good, yeah,
good
like she's
vibes.
good vibes. Yeah.
So I'm just going to ask Chris if he's ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
Weird smiley face that you sent,
I sent
isn't
him
really
a
doing
wave.
much.
Okay,
you, like,
so
poked him.
our guest today is Chris Williamson, who is from Love Island Season 1. He has his own podcast called Modern Wisdom.
I see him.
Yeah, he's online.
Just
He's
call
online.
him. I think we should just call him.
I don't have his number.
No, like
Skype
here.
call.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Wow.
Whoa.
That was so loud.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
How are
Hi,
you?
Chris.
Charlotte, can you
Very good.
screen
How are you?
record? Is that a thing that we can do?
You know, I don't know.
All right. Well, this is Charlotte.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Charlotte.
This is Lily.
Hi.
Hi, Lily.
So we're going to do a crossover episode of How Come and We Really Love Island, because obviously you taught us so much about the behind the scenes of Love Island in that one Modern Wisdom episode. I'm so glad that you did it. I'm sure you get like 1 million messages a day asking the same. That's what you said. You like everyone's always
It was
asking the
just
same thing.
It was a way to expedite me not having to ever answer those questions again.
Yeah,
Totally.
It was perfect. To me, when you describe production, it sounds like the Hunger Games.
A little bit, yeah.
Like, but instead of sending an ointment, they're sending in like, you have to go on a date.
Yeah, they send text messages instead of sending in care packages.
How much, because this wasn't addressed, is fake, like in regards to like lie detector tests?
Don't know. Well, they wouldn't tell us anyway, would they? Because if they said to the cast that the lie detector was fraudulent in any way, and then one of the cast members got stitched up by it, they'd immediately have their toys would go out of the pram, right? So I think that all of the cast must presume that it's the truth, whether that's the case or not. They're not that transparent with loads of stuff. Like, obviously it's in their interests to keep the Islanders in the dark about as much stuff that's going on as possible, because they don't want the Islanders to be thinking about things outside of the show's narrative itself. They just want them fully focused on being present as much as possible and trying to create as much content as they can.
Yeah. That sounded like absolute
Torture.
jail. Like hell and jail. We were talking about how we could never go on because, and it sounded like you're the same type of person who is thinking and reading and having meaningful conversations quite a bit. And they'll come in and police your thoughts like, well, don't talk about that book. Let's talk about, do you love me?
Do you love? But do you
Yeah.
love me?
How did you even emotionally handle that?
At the time, I think you kind of just immersed in it. So it's kind of like PTSD, right?
Yeah.
Like at the time, PTSD doesn't really kick in for the people that are at war, but it's when they have time to reflect and all of their emotions slow down a little bit. Now, I'm not in any way saying that I had PTSD from Love Island. But yeah,
Just a
at the
little bit.
time,
I would.
You're just doing the thing that they put in front of you. Honestly, the presiding emotion that you have while you're there is boredom.
Yeah.
Like, it's just very, very boring and quite slow, and there's not a lot to do or talk about except for the situation that occurred 20 hours ago until the next situation occurs, and then everyone talks about that again. It's like these kind of condensed periods of action and then reflection and then action and then reflection again.
Yeah. Are you more of a group friend or a one-on-one type of person?
Not big groups, sort of small, slightly more intimate groups, I guess. But I mean,
Yeah.
I don't mind being in groups of people or having conversations one-to-one. One of the problems is that as you have more people in the group, inevitably the quality of the conversation seems to go down, because there's always a couple of people in the group as it starts to grow. If there's like 6 people in a group, there's 2 people that are boring.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, no, because I just asked because I've been in groups like that where all they can do is talk about the group because all anybody has in common is the group.
Yeah. That makes sense. Sorry. I don't mean to be like fluttering my hand. You're just playing with this string and it's
I
making
know.
my sound funky. In my
Oh,
ear.
sorry.
That's what I was like.
I just want to take it off. I hate it.
No, I was just thinking about how much of a cat you are, like as a person. You're
literally
just
a
like,
cat.
I can't stop.
Right.
All
Anyway,
right. It's almost gone. Wait.
sorry, Chris.
it's totally fine.
Just yank it.
I'm a Virgo. That's how I explain all of my negative qualities.
Anyway, one thing I thought was super, super interesting that you were saying in your podcast was how you were kind of playing a character during the show. Yeah. I was just wondering, who was that character in your head? Like, who were you trying to be? Because, not to toot your horn, but you seem like a much cooler person off the show than you were on the show.
Good, very good point. Yeah, fantastic point. I don't really know. I don't know who I was pretending to be. I think I knew what they wanted. I knew what the producers were looking for, and I knew that I was able to deliver that particular character, because that's the character that I play as a club promoter, right? So I do the big dick around town, lads, like all that sort of banter. And I was nerfing the more introspective and more like intellectual side of me, because I thought that doesn't really fit the mold. Club promoter, commercial model, like, you've got quite a nice archetype there that's easy to fill. But then, once you kind of start down that road, you can't just halfway through the interview process or halfway through the filming process just like make a U-turn and decide, I'm going to be
totally
like this kind of introspective, more sort of thoughtful person now. Like there's a discontinuity. So I'd kind of backed myself into a corner that I was then committed to continuing.
Yeah. Did you ever think that you could potentially actually find love on the show?
Good question. It was more of a YOLO for me. I was just like, fuck it. We'll just see what happens. I didn't want to go into it with an agenda. And I think that if people do, I think they need to, advice to anyone who's considering going on Love Island is that they need to remember that it is a game show.
Yeah.
Kind of. Like there is a very big game show element at the end of £50,000, and there's the split or seal, like prisoner's dilemma game thing that they do. Mm-hmm. And keeping that in your mind stops you from taking it too seriously, because obviously like the general public treat it like it's, I don't know, like the World Cup for like football or something. They're so patriotic about like, I can't believe that he did this to him. So Adam Collard, who was on this year's most recent one.
I know. And he likes some of our photos sometimes, and I'm like, how dare you?
Yeah.
You're not good with me.
He's my best mate, and he's been my training partner for 2 years. And when he went on, like I think it was like 2 days after he was on there.
Yeah.
And there was like some girl that he'd been speaking to, and then something had happened, and then the whole world just exploded because after 2 days of talking to a girl, he went and talked and decided that he didn't like her. And you're like, fucking hell. Like it's just triggering every betrayed male and female's emotions to extrapolate out and lay over the top of a situation which does not have that happening at all.
But also he kept doing it. So anyway,
the thing is, he didn't do himself any favors because he did it repeatedly.
He did it again.
But the first, what was really interesting, the first time had just the same reaction as all of the others. People weren't using that cognitive bias that you've just identified there. They were just going, "He's an arsehole. He's an arsehole."
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Do you think he was playing a part?
Adam's a very headstrong guy. I know he looks 30, but he is only 22.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's only 22 years old. So he's still thinking like penis first, I think, most of the time.
Sure.
A genuine penis head dilemma.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a direct quote from season 1. Thank you, everyone. I also think, and there was a New York Times article written about Love Island saying how it's really followed like gender politics from a very early time to now through the Me Too movement, and how the Me Too movement has changed things. And I think Adam doing or like mugging Kendall off the first day, usually in any of the other seasons, would have been fine, but people were so like tuned into now terms like gaslighting and stuff.
Yeah.
And they were able to pick that up.
But they just, I think people want a villain very much so, and people want as well, they want to politicize everything. It's like, for the love of all that is holy, it's a dating show.
Totally.
Like, can we just try and focus on the fact that it's good-looking guys and girls wearing swimwear?
Yeah.
Like, I got this really long, pithy comment on the podcast, and it was this girl saying, She couldn't believe that I hadn't brought up the fact that there's a lack of ethnic diversity and that it's unrepresentative. And I was like, okay, fair enough, but there's a lack of everything diversity. And depending on how granular and how much high fidelity you want to look at the level of diversity, there's no gay people on there, there's no lesbian people on there, there's no bi people on there, there's no trans people on there, there's no asexual people, there's no people that are celibate, there's no vicars, there's no spirits or ghosts, there's no cats.
That you know of.
So, but how much more do you want to break this down by before you feel like everything's been fully represented? And ITV2's sole goal with Love Island is to make it as popular as possible. It's a commercial organization, and in capitalism, the successful business wins.
Yeah,
that's all that they're all that they're in this for. There's maybe some element they should do it with virtue and integrity and stuff like that, but their main goal is maximum number of audience retention. And if someone else wants to come in and try and do it with an alternative approach, then brilliant. But I don't think you're going to beat them.
But this is interesting because on the first episode of season 2, we talked about how there is a lack of ethnic diversity, and I mean, it took 3 seasons to get a black person on there, and then as soon as they were on the show, they were rejected by everybody. So it's just, I don't think it's you didn't include everybody. It's we can obviously see that there is a little bit of racism.
Well, also, yeah, because we were wondering too, because we don't live in the UK, obviously. We live here, where obviously, racism's a huge issue here, especially we're talking about it all the time, I feel like. Is it similar over there? I always thought you guys were much more woke than us, but then
I'd say that there's less racial tension. At least I think the typical racial tension in America, from what I can see, tends to be black and white.
Yeah.
Whereas in the UK, the African contingent is actually lower. We tend to have more Arab and and I guess Eastern Asian input. So, but I mean, this is the thing. It's viewing it through a very, very fine lens as well. The number of people that will pipe up about the fact that there's not enough black people on the show is quite high, but the number of people that would pipe up about there not being enough Jews on the show that doesn't ever really seem to factor in someone's mind. So it just seems to me like people
they had Eyal
selective.
This season. Eyal Booker's Jewish.
Yeah, that's one.
That's one.
I mean, on my
we'll take it.
On my season, there was a black girl that was straight through the doors at the very, very beginning.
Rachel, but that's what I was going to say.
She was rejected.
But besides that, they cast the most boring person ever. She's somebody with a kid at home. She's not going to... I'm not saying she's a boring person in real life. Boring for the sake of the show. She wasn't going to get down.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they knew that when they got her. She just happened to be boring.
I mean, I don't think that they intend... They want everyone to produce as much content as possible. I don't think that the producers would let some racial bias overcome them choosing someone who's actually appropriate for the show.
Okay.
Also, I think with regards to the rejection thing, the woman brought this up, the girl who'd commented on the podcast brought this up, and she said that men should be chosen based on their dating preferences, and that white men that specifically date black women should be chosen so that black women have a fairer crack of the whip. And the reverse should be true as well, that white girls that like black men. Yeah. And you're like, well, how much do we want to try and... Not only do you want to control the people that go on the show, you also want to control the preferences of the people that go on there.
Yeah.
But how far down this road do we need to go before it stops becoming reality TV anymore? I mean... to say that, Rachel, maybe she didn't put herself out there that much, but if you compare the girls of season 1 with the girls of season 2, 3, and 4, my opinion is that the producers upped their understanding that the guys need to have girls that are a little bit more outgoing. I think that the girls on season 1 stand alone, and then that 2, 3, and 4 seem like you could kind of lump all of those girls together and they would probably gel. I don't know whether you guys noticed that when you were watching or whether you agree.
Yeah, I definitely. And I also think we as viewers needed girls who are more outgoing too, because the girls in season 1 kind of made it like, oh, well, you have to have a boyfriend to hook up and you have to be this archetypal woman and you're going to get talked shit on. Jess got dragged through the mud just for like
Kissing.
doing the job of the show, which is trying it on with multiple people.
Yeah.
And I do think that the show has progressed so much in that, like, Olivia fucked Rykard next to Rachel and nobody cared. They were just like, whatever, she's our friend, that's what she does. And I actually think that's good because it's just like, everybody should be equal in.
Yeah.
I mean, perfect.
Okay, so there was part of your podcast, Modern Wisdom, that I listened to, where you said that girls are more loyal in relationships and put in more effort than boys. Do you still believe this to be true?
Was that on the Love Island one, or was that on relationships?
Just on relationships. Yeah. Different one.
Oh, so the statistics. The statistics seem to suggest that infidelity in relationship is the men tend to be the protagonist more than the women. Now, this isn't to say that women don't cheat. We all know girls that do.
Yeah.
But based on personal experience, and I've got a pretty big sample size to deal with. I've probably had 1,000 people between the age of 18 and 21 work for me over the last 8 years.
Yeah.
It's a good sample size of young relationships. And then based on what I've looked at, I'd say that men tend to be tempted away more easily than women.
Yeah, you said it's because
is the easiest way for me to put it.
Yeah, and the novelty factor.
Big
I
deal.
think you said that
it doesn't have to be better, it just has to be different.
Yeah, the Family Guy example. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
What season of Family Guy was that where he's even
really early?
Really early.
Season
Yeah.
4 or something.
Yeah, like Peter probably looks different. Yeah.
Sorry. Really? Right before you got on, I was like, Chris, hey, Paperboy. Why are there so many Family Guy references today?
Do you have a shower scene or do I have to keep dreaming? No, but what I was going to say about the novelty thing is I think women actually have the same proclivities, but because they haven't had like monetary independence like as much for a really long time, they're more reticent because they have more to lose. Do you know what I mean?
They're less likely to cheat because
they would be losing their
I think it
husband
definitely
income
plays
provider,
into it.
right?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if it's everything. I think like we were.
Oh yeah, well yeah.
We were saying we had this woman, Helen Fisher, on, who is an evolutionary anthropologist and biologist, and that's just such an interesting perspective because it's not to say what's natural or innate is correct, but there are hormones that like kind of dictate who a person is, and what makes us human is that we can say no to them. But like women do have higher levels of like serotonin and estrogen, and we're more likely to be a little more empathetic, which means less likely to cheat.
Okay.
So I think it's genes, environment.
On the whole, women are more agreeable than men. That's why the men are much more disagreeable. If you take the number one most disagreeable out of 100 people, that person will always be a man. And if you take the number one most agreeable person out of 100 people, that person will always be a woman. This is one of the reasons why women struggle in negotiating for higher salaries. It's because disagreeable people tend to negotiate for higher salaries. This is why there are unbelievably higher, by a factor of however many, men in prison than women, because disagreeableness is a big indicator of who's going to go to prison. Crime is associated with how disagreeable you are. And when it comes to being in relationships as well, I think that agreeableness means that you will say yes or take someone back on the whole more than someone who's disagreeable. We have personality traits that lend our genders towards specific roles within relationships. Yeah. And I think that it's totally right that people should be allowed to choose whether or not they want to adhere to typical gender roles. But these typical roles within relationships, they have manifested themselves as a reflection of the way that our makeup is. And if you've spoken to someone that does evolutionary psychology, anthropology, you will know that there is a use for this. The only reason that anything still exists now after
babies,
the last 100 million years, the only reason that anything still exists is because it either encouraged reproduction or it encouraged survivability.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the only reason that anything still exists.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear something crazy we learned?
Hit me.
Okay. Dr. Helen Fisher told us that if you look at like intelligence,
there are way more men geniuses, and then the women are all kind of like here, whatever, and then there's way more men idiots.
They're
it's
overrepresented on each
side. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a big disparity in male intellectual accomplishment. That's why the overwhelming number of, I think, Nobel Prize winners tend towards men. So this is what's interesting as well about understanding that even though you could actually have the average mental output or the average IQ of men and women be exactly the same. Mm-hmm. That still could be the case. Right in the middle of the bell curve could be men and women being exactly the same. However, when you move out towards the extremes, you get these real big differences. Yeah. And that's what we're talking about when it comes to the agreeableness and disagreeableness. So men and women, their disagreeableness overlaps for 60%. Mm-hmm. But when you move out towards the extremes, you get this real disconnect between which genders tend in which direction.
I have a question. Well, I have two, actually, Chris. Number one, what the fuck did you study in school? Like, why? I mean, I can talk to her. I was a psych major. She was art history. Like, we both have studied a ton. I don't know what you studied, Lily.
Psychoanalysis and visual art.
Nice.
Okay.
The two of us together.
Yeah, literally.
So
it's weird.
Yeah.
But
what did you study?
Number one, what did you study? And number two, why did you start your podcast? Because it's Modern Love. It's not just Love Island.
No, it's Modern Wisdom.
Modern Wisdom. Sorry.
Modern Love is
Aziz Ansari's book.
Nope.
Yeah.
So I did business management and then a master's in international marketing at uni. Mm-hmm. Looking back, I did it because I wanted something that gave me a direct route to employment. Mm-hmm. And I think because I was 18 when the internet was still there wasn't Facebook and there wasn't this, you weren't able to socialize yourself as quickly. I'm an only child as well, which meant that I don't think I fully understood what different courses and what different cities. I just wasn't as aware as I should have been of things. Going back, I should have done philosophy or psychology. Yeah. I should have done, because that would have allowed me to indulge passions that I have naturally. And then with regards to the podcast, I was on my friends from Propane Fitness. I featured on theirs a couple of times.
Yeah.
I enjoy the process of forcing myself to articulate thoughts very precisely and to run through what I think with intellectual rigor and to be held to account not only by the people that I'm speaking to, but by the listeners at home as well. Mm-hmm. And I find it kind of like conceptual gymnasium. Like, it forces you to take something that you might know a little bit and really work hard on it and try and articulate it. And you turn these thoughts from kind of fluffy, ephemeral, nebulous clouds into these crystallized words and concepts, and then you say them. And then you need to be consistent with them as well, which forces me to be truthful, which is really good, very good for me, especially. It forces me to be truthful, because if the listeners hear me say one thing one week and then I say something different the next week, then I'm going to get called out by them as well, and by the people I'm on the podcast
That's
with.
why I started How Come, because I couldn't have orgasms, and I was like, I just need to be held accountable.
Who did you need to be held accountable to?
To myself. And to the listeners and like everybody else, because like Charlotte would just be like, you're a lazy masturbator. Yeah.
But it makes total sense. That's why AA exists. That's why they say you should speak your goals out to people, because once you've put it out there in like someone else's hands, you're more likely to follow through with it.
Yeah, because then people can be like, oh, she quit.
Right. And you don't want to be seen as two-faced or a quitter or whatever it is.
External accountability is a big thing.
Huge. Yeah, massive.
I always call Love Island Honesty Island, because so many of the factors make you have to tell the truth. Like, because you never know who is going to be voting you out that week.
Yeah, or who's listening. I mean, nothing is going to be a secret, basically.
Yeah,
and they also do the games where they're like, do you want to know what everyone said about you? And you're like, no. But I usually have to.
Yeah, it's really brutal. How do you deal with that? Because I would never ghost someone, but I do have a hard time.
You would never ghost someone?
Never would.
Really?
You've never ghosted someone?
I prefer to ghost.
I think it's the meanest thing you could do.
Oh, cool.
I really do. I'd rather
I did it once.
I couldn't. I don't know. I feel like
Can't
super
stop
mean.
doing it.
I did it once, and the guy kept texting me, and then at the end of it, he goes, "Well, this has been sufficiently embarrassing. Goodbye."
See, that hurts. That hurts my soul.
It was so sad.
That's so sad.
I know.
I would just be like, it's not a good time. I'm really sorry. Like, I'm studying a lot. Whatever it is, I would rather
Lie?
fib. I'd rather fib. But you can't do that on Love Island. So if I'm not into someone, I have to look them in the eye. Oh, and say to them, potentially, I'm just not attracted to you.
Yeah. Or like to Daniel in season 2, you're gorgeous, but you are repellent to me. Like, what?
It's so, how do you deal with that?
The most recent episode that we've just recorded is Relationships 103, which is cheating, how to break up with someone, and how to get over someone.
Okay.
Yusuf recited one of his favorite breakup stories, which is from when he was 17. And apparently he'd been backed into a relationship kind of without knowing that he was in one. And then before he knew it, he'd been in one for about 6 months. And this is when... So Yusuf's very slightly somewhere on the autism spectrum. And I think that it's led him into particular situations where he's detached himself socially from what might be common. And he's gone for what he thinks is objectively the best approach. It can lead to a lack of tact at times. And this is one of those situations. So him and his current then girlfriend were walking to the bus stop where she's about to get the bus home. And he's been thinking for a while about what he's going to say to her. And he goes, right, yeah, that's good. Cool. So gets to the bus stop. Bus is about to come. And she says, Sophie, before you go, I want to tell you that I'm not attracted to you at all.
Oh, no.
And then he was like, yeah, that went well. And then looked at her and like tears had started streaming down her face. Then her bus came, but because she was crying, she missed her bus. So the bus left. So she had to wait for another 40 minutes.
Crying.
Oh, no.
Crying. At the
Did
bus
he
stop
wait
on
with
his
her
own.
at least?
And then he's like, you look extra ugly when you cry.
So what are the biggest takeaways on how to break up with somebody?
So Alain de Botton from the School of Life has a fantastic set of videos about this, and this is where I drew most of my inspiration from as well. But compassionately tell the person that you're with as much truth as you can. Like, you can't tell someone more truth than you're prepared to give away, because that's you damaging yourself for the sake of someone that's not going to be in your life anymore. But you should be, if you can be maximally truthful, then you should do it. And the reason is that you need to give this person that you're speaking to metrics on which they can make their next relationship better. If they do something which is unequivocally annoying or irritating or a bad personality trait or disingenuous or whatever it might be, if you give them guidelines, that means that they're going to be better for the next person that comes along.
Yeah,
That
it should be like
you
an
don't want
exit
them anymore.
interview.
It doesn't mean that you shouldn't want them to be good with someone else.
100%.
That's why I think ghosting is awful, because they have no idea how to improve.
Yeah, okay,
like,
we
nothing
only
can
banged
change.
like twice. It was nothing.
I think yeah, ghosting's for someone that you met on Tinder and won't show up.
Exactly.
Isn't it? Like,
We
it's
met
not
on
for, it's not for a
Hinge.
relationship
It's-
of
Right.
6 months.
Yeah.
That's I'm not attracted to you.
Yeah.
Pause. At all. That's what that's for.
At all.
Have you been ghosted before?
Probably, and just well excused. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
How's being on the show improved your love life or
worsened?
Or worsened, yeah.
Or nothing?
I'm not really too sure. So I spoke about this the other day. I was fairly well known in Newcastle anyway. I'd done club promo for 10 years. And the city's got 1 million people in, it's not that big.
That's the thing to do in Newcastle. That's all I know about Newcastle is that you guys see each other in the club and you like each other in the club.
That's what it goes. So I'd done that for a long time, which meant that my notoriety with regards to that was quite high in any case. So if we ran a club night where 1,500 people came, maybe 500 of them would want to come up and speak to me. But that was before the show. That would be it was completely transactional. It's because they know I'm the guy that's got the VIP bands or whatever. But they would know who I was. So it meant that it wouldn't actually change all that much in terms of what happened. Love life, I guess, lead generation might have improved as Yusuf and Johnny would model it. The lead generation might have improved.
But
that you've got a slightly wider pool.
Yeah. How's customer retention?
Well, that's it. In online marketing, you've only got two things: you've got traffic and you've got conversions. Yeah. And you either need to get more traffic or you need to get better with your conversions. So
yeah.
I think one thing it's definitely done is probably pigeonholed me into like reality TV wanker world, which depending on what sort of girls you're going for, can be a positive or a minus.
Yeah.
What's your type on paper then?
Yeah, what is your type on paper?
And what the fuck is this question? Does that question really matter? You guys ask that question on the show all the time.
Like, is that how people
what?
in Britain date? Is like, hey, here's my type, green eyes, tall.
Man, honestly, so I think that I'm cut from a similar cloth as yourselves, that this question to me just seems completely absurd.
Yeah,
like
it's crazy.
I don't have what they want to hear when they say it is exactly what you've come across there. They want to hear some very, very tightly regulated physical characteristics about the person that you want. Yeah, I go for girls like 5'1.5" to 5'3 1/4.
Yeah,
like they need to have green eyes, not that green, like a little bit green, but not too green.
Sick
like,
banter,
like,
small boobs, big ass.
It's like, who thinks like this? They asked me this question, and they're like, "Oh, so what sort of girls you go for?" And I'm like, "Oh, bloody hell, I've never thought about that." Well, my past girlfriends have been white, mixed race, black, brunette, blonde. Like they've been mostly petite, I guess. So so I can discriminate on body type a little bit. Like that, they tend to be, not super tall girls, and then they put no girls that was shorter than about 5'6" into the villa on the season that I did. Like there were these girls striding out in heels like fucking Amazon women.
Zoe, I remember.
1,000-yard step as they come into the middle of the pool.
She was so rude to you, I wanted to smack her. What the fuck was that?
She sucks.
On the massage date?
I think that
That was the rudest thing I've ever heard a person say to another person.
At first, I thought you guys were so close, and that's why you could joke about that. And then I realized you just didn't like each other, and I was like, what? Like, who would say that to another person?
I don't know. Well, like I say, I think at the time as well, I was so distracted trying to play this particular role. Like if Zoe had decided, if I'd gone for round 2, if we came back and we had like Revenge of the Zoe, like Rocky 2, like if we had another crack at it, I don't think she would have lasted more than about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was just, that was a very bizarre, very, very bizarre situation. Because what you have to think is, I'm aware that it looks awkward. Like any of the things that you see on TV, they might look cute or awkward or intense or whatever it is. But especially when you're out on a date and you're not in the villa, there is a crew of producer, cameraman, sound guy, lighting guy, runner, driver.
Yeah.
Like observing. So trying to stay present is really, really tough. And obviously when the intensity of a situation gets turned up, it's embarrassing or it's awkward or whatever it might be. At that moment, what you really, really need to do is kind of focus on the exchange that you're going through and really, really dial into the narrative. Whereas what you're thinking is, I look like a knobhead to that driver, that Spanish driver that just dropped me off. Yeah. So it's very tough to actually stay on task.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, being mindful is already hard, let alone with a whole audience. Like,
yeah.
And every moment, I assume, like you're saying, I know you said Love Island is a little bit like fluffy. They add the music, they make things cute. I assume they make the awkward moments extra awkward.
Yeah.
Too, like
it's editing.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to exaggerate everything to bring out they've just turned up the contrast, right? A little bit on all of the situations.
What was the thing with Malin and you? Like, you guys knew each other beforehand, and then did she help you get on? Or no, you told her how to get on the show, or was it the other show that you did?
So
Take
I
Me
did
Out?
Take Me Out.
Yeah,
I did Take Me Out.
Did she do Take Me Out as
3
well?
years. So she was on the same season, and
okay.
I started dating one of her friends from the show. She started dating one of my friends from my episode. So I got in touch with her, and then you'll remember on the first, on the intro to season 1, we're all on different things, and she is the air hostess that walks down the aisle past me. So I'd seen her during that particular exchange, and I knew that it was going to be her. And sure enough, I was like, "Oh, hi mate, how are you?"
That's
and
so cool.
Then she messaged me afterwards and was like, "I'm going to go and do 2 more of these,
right?
Like intro VTs. you want me to tell you who the guys are? And I was like, right, so I want you to tell me who the guys are. So before I went on, I knew that Lewis was going to be on there.
And did you know him before?
No, but I added him on Facebook.
Okay.
And then he must have worked out why I was adding him as well.
Yeah.
And then I worked out that the twins were going to be on there as well. And yeah, so it was for the first like couple of days, and that was another thing, right? So I had to like feign surprise, like, oh, it's twins, who'd have guessed?
Yeah.
Like,
Did you have to feign surprise even to those guys? Or just away from the producers?
No, the whole time,
well,
right?
the producers are always listening, right?
Yeah.
So,
You have to be a totally different person.
That is such. It is the Truman Show.
Wait, it is the Truman Show, and you're still on it, and your season comes out in December. I used to tell that to her when we were really little. I was like, Charlotte, you're on the Truman Show, because I had like neuroses about it. So I was like, let me put it on my little sister instead.
We're sisters, by the way.
No, I told him. Yeah, no, he knows now. What was I saying before? Oh,
the producers.
The thing that made me lose my mind on your podcast was when you were talking about like the holding place and like being quiet and stuff, and like before you come into the
week
house
period, like where you settle in.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
the
then
lockdown
during
week, yeah.
that they're doing an entirely identical
Dry run?
cast dry run. Yeah,
That was crazy.
yeah.
That's bonkers.
That was bizarre. So what's super, super weird, this is how incestuous. So for you guys, you're in a country that is geographically and
Big.
populationally, it's massive.
Massive.
Yeah.
Right? The UK is not that big.
yeah.
So-
We're like, how do they all know each other?
Well, that's me and Adam got accused of that. So I put a photo up the first night that he went in, and I was like, "Good luck, man." And like, you've gone from drink downer to barbell spotter, and now to torch bearer.
Yeah.
Like, good luck, sort of, with your like just as a little joke thing. And it was like, knew that this was all a fix. How do all of the islanders know each other? And it's like, well, if you're within the same age demographic and partying in clubs in the UK, there's just not that many people.
Yeah,
like there's not. It's just like saying, why do you know the people from your hometown?
Yeah,
Well,
especially
because there's not that
yeah.
many people in my hometown.
Yeah.
So, on the dry run that was happening, the twins that were on my episode of Take Me Out, one of whom had dated Malin, they were the twins that were the pretend dry run for the Italian twins that came through.
Crazy.
So it was like, so anyway, I'm ringing them, and I'd heard off someone that one of them was going out to Mallorca. And I was like, surely not. Sure, because I was getting ready to get picked up in like a couple of days' time. And I'm packing my suitcase. So I like FaceTime one of the guys, and I'm like, hey mate, how are you? And he's got his hand over the camera, and I'm like, something dodgy going on here. Anyway, starts chatting backwards and forwards, and they were just about to go into the villa.
Wow.
They were literally about to do it, but they didn't know I was going on, and they were like, "Oh, like, look, man, are you in Mallorca at the moment?" And I went, "Well, we're not supposed to tell anyone, but yeah, mate, we are." And I was like, "All right, like, what are you doing there?" And he's like, "Oh man, stop asking. Honestly, like, it's a TV thing, but it's not that serious.
Yeah.
We're just doing like a dress rehearsal thing. It's not really that full on." I was like, "All right, that's interesting." I was like, "Look at your phone," and I span it round and showed them the like ITV2 non-disclosure agreement thing. And they were like,
funny.
They're like, holy
no
fucking shit.
way. I was like, yeah, man. So I asked them to leave me a note. They left me a note under like a plant pot somewhere.
Shut
So
up!
I
That's
got this note out
amazing.
from under a plant pot. Yeah.
That's like one of your small enjoyable moments on the
yeah.
show.
Well, that's the same. You know, you were talking about it being a bit sort of dystopian and kind of 1984-y.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly that.
Yeah.
That was us sneaking a look at a real news story from the outside world or something. That was like a little
Totally.
note that was like, fuck the system.
It's super
So-
Orwellian. Like in season 3, there's a moment where Theo has one of the girls take off her mic. He's like, "Let's go for a swim," just so that
yeah,
for that
yeah,
1
yeah,
second,
yeah.
he can say something like, "Listen, if we just want to get this money, we
Yeah.
have to." And you're just like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God."
Yeah. But the second they do it in Housewives too, the second anyone says turn your mic pack off, like you're as good as toast. Like you're dead.
But you don't hear him say that. That's the weird
Oh.
part. It's her being like, he told me to take it off. Like he had taken his off.
Yeah.
Told her to do it. I just, it's so wild
the
to me.
best thing that you could do is if you don't want anything to be broadcast, if you just sing Disney songs in the background, because they don't have the rights to be able to broadcast them. So we were just singing like "Let It Go" from Frozen whenever we wanted to talk about stuff that we were adamant we didn't want to get aired.
Yeah,
because they can't isolate. Let's say that they need to get the audio from this mic, but they can't isolate what I'm saying from some bastard singing "Let It Go."
Yeah,
like.
That's
but
amazing.
it's crazy that Jess obviously, like, she did well in the dry run, and then she came into the house. Like, that's what so she had to pretend the entire time that she had never done this, and that it wasn't what the fuck? That's not a question, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a bit bizarre, I suppose, like looking back, especially because Naomi was supposed to be one of the starting cast. So she was in media lockdown for like 2 weeks.
But still came in having seen the date with the Italians. If they're in media lockdown, how come they can watch the show?
She would have been in media lockdown up until the show came out. And then when they realized that she was going to be a normal cast member and not one of the starting cast members,
they sent her home.
They would have kept her like on the island wherever she's staying and just been like, look, like we're going to put you in soon, but we can now relinquish the media lockdown thing because they don't need to keep it quiet anymore.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool.
Because every time a new person comes in, they're like, oh, I saw what this person's been saying. And then they rate them based on how real they think they are and all this stuff. But we thought that they were on media lockdown, so we were so curious as to why they knew so much. Like, we thought Naomi was lying.
I thought she had like a little portable TV and she's like sneaking.
No, she would have been allowed out. She would have got pulled out of a media lockdown because as soon as they put Jess in, they wouldn't have needed that anymore.
Did she know that was her replacement? No. So she didn't have like a specific vendetta being.
So she just hated Jess on her own.
On her own. That's so.
It was just purely on merit as opposed to like.
She hated me on merit.
Yeah, I earned it. There's an STD screening, right?
Very, very comprehensive.
Very rigorous. Like
incredibly rigorous. Yeah.
How rigorous? No. Like they make you go to the doctor right before in front of them and show them your tests.
Yeah.
So. During the casting process, you'll get taken down to Harley Street in London, which you may have heard of. It's the very, very posh medical district of London. And there's a private clinic there with a number of GPs and psychiatrists and other people. So you go and you get a psychometric evaluation to ensure that you're not mentally unsound, I suppose, to go onto the show. And then after that, you'll go through a sexual health screening. But, usually you go into a GP and it's very, very clinical. And you pull up outside one of these places and it's like Ferrari, Lamborghini, Bentley outside. I went upstairs and there was this really attractive sort of early 40s mixed race Indian woman who was on the top floor, owner of the practice, like, tight maxi dress with visible panty line, and she was like, "Oh, I'm the doctor that does everybody from Britain's Got Talent, everyone from X Factor, every British boxer that's being tested outside of the US, like all of these people and this, that, and the other." And I'm just like, this is overwhelmingly bizarre.
Yeah.
Like, and then sure enough, you get screened for like everything. She gave me like a tetanus booster because I hadn't had a tetanus booster since I was in school. And she was like, oh, like you need this and this. I'll just give you those as well. And I'm like,
wow.
Private.
I'll go on Love Island just to get health care.
Yeah. Mind blowing. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, now I don't remember.
Okay.
Well,
I think I know what you're going to say.
What?
Because you brought up an important issue.
Oh, condoms.
Oh, also important, but not what I was going to say.
Oh, but I know that there's a lot of condoms in the house, but we never see anyone taking them. Just do people?
They're branded. They're Love Island branded condoms.
But do people use them?
I can't speak for other people, and I didn't have sex on the show, so I can't really speak for anyone else. Like, I mean, I suppose going in by virtue of the fact that everyone's had the sexual health screening, that everybody's clean.
I was going to say they probably don't.
And if the presumption is that the woman's on birth control as well, it's like, well, being frank here, like, why would you?
Yeah. No. That's if they're all on birth control too, then
right.
Yeah, no.
You just have to have that conversation.
Raw dog the whole house.
Fire away.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Well, I was going to go to also an important issue, but a little different.
Yeah.
So you were saying, obviously, they health screen you. Huge component is like mental health.
Yeah. Huge.
Like what happened with Sophie's fucking horrible, and you knew her, obviously.
Yeah.
It's so sad. And you're just like, do you feel like there's enough support on the show or afterwards? Like, it just seems like a lot to deal with. For anyone.
I mean, for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, Sophie Graydon, who was on season 2, was a good friend of mine, been a model at the same agency as myself for over 10 years, known her for a long time. She took her own life a couple of years after being on Love Island. So first off, I think the psychometric evaluation is good, and I think that ITV2 do a really, really good job. I think that they work super hard to make sure that everyone in there is very happy.
Yeah.
And that the people that go on there are well set and are right. There's, as far as I was concerned, like if I ever had any problems, I knew that there was someone that I could turn to at ITV, which was good. But as my friend Yusuf said on the podcast, it's quite easy to make anyone believe that you're not a psychopath for 20 minutes during an interview.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you have, especially if you're someone that tends towards anxiety or depression or anything to do with mental health, it is the most natural thing in the world to be able to hide it, and you're going to be incredibly proficient at it.
Yeah.
So the psychometric tests, I mean, if they catch you out, you were really not good for the show. Like, if you're not able to hide it to a person, like, 'cause presumably you want to go on the show.
Right.
So you have your interests and the interests of the person taking the test actually aren't aligned.
Right.
It's not, am I right for the show? It's, I am right for the show. I need to tell you that I'm right for the show.
Right. Yeah, just let me on.
Because there's this carrot dangled at the end of it, which is adulation and fame and a cool experience or whatever. So yeah, with the whole Sophie thing, especially considering that I'd mentioned it a couple of times on the podcast, and then it was like 6 weeks after that she took her life.
So insane.
It's
Which
insane.
was very harrowing, yeah.
Like, I looked to see when it was recorded, and then I was like...
Yeah. What I said on the podcast was that I thought that a lot of people are good at playing the game, that they're able to hide, as I've suggested here, that they're able to hide the fact that they might not be doing too well, and that the pressure of media and stuff can cause people to develop some weird complexes that are probably not very healthy. And then I mentioned Sophie had a bad time, and, you know, I hope that she's okay, and blah, blah. And then later on, I was like, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if we've seen a couple of years of Britney Spears-esque 2008 style breakdown.
Yep.
And then a couple of weeks after that, Sophie passed away. I don't think that, like, ITV aren't in the business of making money off the back of putting people on a TV program that aren't right.
Not at all.
No.
I don't think it's their fault at all.
The thing is, as well, that it's not like there's a shordage of people to go on the show. There's more people that apply for Love Island every year than apply to Oxford University.
I know. It's so insane.
So
it's really insane.
That's how I knew I was onto something good, because I found out about Love Island from a fan of How Come, because I had been watching X on the Beach, which is way better in the UK than it is here. Here, they replaced the Tablet of Terror with Bow Wow, and he's just like, you're going on a date. It's horrible. But,
oh, wow.
But yeah, so one of my How Come fans was like, if you, shout out to Court, he was like, if you like this show, you're going to love Love Island. And I did, and I was like, but it's so much more than,
like a
guilty
show.
pleasure.
Yeah.
It's really a very interesting anthropological experiment. And that was only confirmed to me when the New York Times article came out. And the first thing they were like, Oxford doesn't have as many applications or has a lower rejection rate than Love Island.
Right.
Madness.
Yeah.
Do you think that is because just so many people want to be famous? Is that the big thing?
No, I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, when I went on, I came out, like, this sounds so bizarre to even say now, but when I came out, I think I'd gone from like 10,000 followers on Instagram to like maybe 20. Do you think now, like, someone mentions their mum on Love Island and their mum gains 30,000 followers?
Definitely.
Like, so, Love Island now gives anybody the capacity to hit 1 million followers on social media
Easily.
And that's a resource which isn't owned by anybody else. And really, if you can monetize it sufficiently cleverly, it means that you're not going to need to work for probably the next 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
Like if you can manage your brand sufficiently well, you can do influencer work until Instagram stops, probably. So I think that a lot of people are going on because, first off, they want to be well known, and it's the simplest route from being a nobody to being famous, whilst not having to cultivate any talent or work hard at anything.
You just have to be yourself, hopefully.
You just have to exist,
Yeah.
And this is one of the things, fortunately and unfortunately, what it means is that people so I met Jack that won this year. We booked him for an appearance at one of my events, and Jack is the loveliest kid. Super, super nice, very altruistic sort of side to him. He wants to do some stuff with helping the homeless and some other bits and pieces, and he's just a normal dude. Normal dude that now has 2.5 million followers and everyone in the UK knows his name.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty much all it is. So what it does allow people to do is, if you are someone like Jack, who naturally your skill or your talent is the fact that your personality lends itself very well to TV, people like you, and it entertains them.
Right.
Like there's 3 types of content: entertainment, education, or emotion. There's only 3 main types that you can actually create. And being entertainment, like it's considered the lowest brow of the lot, but like people need entertainment, and it also crosses the widest number of people in terms of interest. So that's cool. What I think's less cool is that on the flip side of that, you have people whose personality doesn't lend themselves to being a tremendously good character, who maybe aren't very nice people, or are less deserving by whatever metric you want to choose of that, and yet they can still potentially springboard themselves ahead of more deserving people, again, by whatever metric you want to choose, and get ahead within particular industries. Piers Morgan very famously said, "Stop making stupid people famous."
Yeah.
When he was talking about Love Island, and said that Love Islanders are literally the most stupid people on the planet. I issued him an open invitation to come on the podcast and discuss with me.
There's always one smart one, or like maybe 2 every season that like just kind of doesn't fit in because they want to talk about something else, and they're just like, there's always one. Like when Camilla was there, I was like,
what? How did she get there?
Like, you work for the Halo Trust? Like, what are you doing?
She diffuses bombs.
She took a wrong turn on her way to work and ended up on Love Island.
How did she get there?
Yeah.
I will never understand.
No,
she
but
dated
it's nice.
Prince Harry too.
She dated who?
Prince Harry.
Oh yeah. Well, because of the trust. I met anyway, but I met him at a Halo Trust dinner once. It was pretty cool.
They were probably dating.
I mean, it's not.
No, they weren't.
They're not the smartest people in the world. I was just watching an episode and someone said attribute, and someone else was like, huge word.
Oh yeah, no. When Naomi could spell, people lost their minds. I don't know if you've ever seen Love Island Australia, but there is one episode where one guy is just lying about space to the rest of the people, and they're all like, "Wow, mate, you know so much about space," and like, and he's just bullshit. He's like, "I don't know anything about space. I don't."
That's wild.
I mean, that for me, and you'll have seen this if you've ever watched the UK version of X on the Beach.
Yeah.
And I don't know where this meta narrative has come from, which appears to weave itself through all of the UK reality TV. But there is this glorification of stupidity.
Yes.
Like the fact that someone can be ignorant of a common fact or an uncommon fact is endearing
adorable.
To the point where it's almost put on a pedestal.
Yeah.
So you'll have someone that'll bring something up about like, do birds lay eggs?
Yeah.
Or like can dogs look up? Or
Haley
do you know what
said
I mean?
something
just
like that.
Random facts about something.
Yeah.
And the amount of time that is dedicated to this very slow, very burbling reply of someone going, "Mate, no, no," and you're like, "Yeah, dogs can actually look up. Yeah,
No.
they can look at the sky, mate. You fucking blowing my mind here, mate." And you're like, the sort of thing that makes you want to be able to fit both your fists inside of your skull.
I was going to say, I would never do well on that show because people would think I was such a bitch.
You'd be like Danielle?
You'd be a know-it-all, yeah.
I would be such a bitch.
Yeah.
But so I used that example on the very first date. So I'm sat down with Danielle on the first night, and she points across at something and mentions something about the trees. I can't remember what it was. And I just like reel off the reason that it is the way it is. Something about the Coriolis effect of the Earth, or it was being due to whatever it might be. And she went, "Oh, like that's really clever. Like, say some more clever things." And I was like, "Whoa,
what a weird thing to say."
Like, this is not the role that I should be playing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there was definitely. I mean,
but it would have been fun to see you say like smart shit next to all of their dumb shit.
But then he becomes this douchebag.
Yeah, but it just creates this big sort of disjointed relationship between yourself and the people that are on there, because that's not what they're there to talk about.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, it's all well and good saying I love intelligent conversation, but if it's only you having the conversation, that's the equivalent of you stood in the wind with your dick out, just letting it flap around. Like, you're not playing a game of tennis here with someone. That's you,
right?
Yeah.
Swinging your dick around on your own.
Or like, that's just you giving a speech and teaching other people, and you don't want to become the teacher of the house.
Which is also shit, and it just sounds preachy and
totally.
bollocks. And I mean, so definitely, if intellectual integrity is something that you chase after, like I love learning shit. Like, that's one of the reasons I do the podcast, because I get to speak to people, like some of the cleverest people on the planet, and I just get to learn cool shit off them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I just spend the rest of my life learning cool shit every day, like, I'll be happy. But if that happens, and if your powers of recall aren't zero, that means that inevitably you're never ever going to fit this mold of like, mate, no, dogs can look like fucking hell, and you're like, right, fuck me.
Yeah. Who is your like favorite guest that you've had on your podcast?
Oh wow. So I really liked William von Hippel that I've just had recently. He wrote a book called The Social Leap. Fell in love after I heard him on Joe Rogan. And it's just about how we went from chimps in trees to upright apes on planes, and then it's the development of the human animal from there. That was super good. If I'm honest, my favorite episodes are the ones that I do with my two best mates, the ones that I do with Johnny and Yusuf.
Yeah.
I look forward to them more than anything else. Like, they're the highlight of my week, and the fact that I somehow get to call that, like, it's not even work, but the fact that I get to call that a project and it fits under the banner of work is like, it just blows me away.
Yeah, and people like when you're sitting with your friends, because then they feel like they're your fourth friend.
Yeah.
That's how I feel when I'm watching Love Island too, though. I'm like, oh, my friends are having sex without
I'm there
me.
as well.
I'm like, I'm in a relationship now.
You know, there's a Love Island game on a...
No.
Oh, yeah. You can play and like whatever. And Emily and I, our other friend who does We Really Love Island, got very invested. We were like, oh, Jasper just left me. And I was like, I could never actually survive in the house because today's been tough and I've only been allowed 15 minutes on it.
It's been a virtual relationship, and I'm torn up.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I hope Levi picks me. She's like, I also hope Levi picks me. And we're both in lesbian relationships with Talia as well. We're killing it.
In this game.
In the game. In the game, yeah.
Very, very complicated.
Yeah, Sophie was the only cast member ever to express that she was bisexual.
But she
did it in a weird...
Tom was like, or someone was like,
Katie.
oh, this means that you're bisexual. And she was like, no.
No.
And
Yeah,
it's
she
like,
was like,
you
I-
dated two women.
Yeah. But so is...
Oh, I feel like she did.
No, she said, I dated two women, and then he said, so are you bi? And she said, no. So I was wondering, is that a UK thing that you guys aren't as... Because my first LGBT parade was in London. So I didn't really understand why she would be kind of skirty about it.
I'm not sure. I think Sophie probably was... I think she was probably quite conscious of opening up beyond whatever barrier she'd set already.
Yeah.
So I think she was probably quite conscious of that.
It was
with regards
a
to
personal
like
thing.
the wider... What's an interesting thing is it wouldn't... Like, it was a bit of news that Sophie was in a lesbian relationship, or whatever you want to say, a same-sex relationship. But I'll ask you guys, like, how do you think the press would have reacted if it had turned out to be one of the guys that had then gone, oh, like, I don't fancy a girl anymore, I fancy getting it on with this lad instead?
I think over here we're working on it so much that it would be accepted. Yeah.
But over there...
But that doesn't mean Okay.
That it-
media accepting versus like day-to-day acceptance is very different.
Totally.
Like, same shit with racism. You know, you might see people being like hyper politically correct, but you walk around and black people, gay people still might feel very like unwelcome.
Yeah.
I think media-wise, it would probably still be
Pretty taboo.
It would be everywhere probably.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre. It's bizarre the way that even me, I can feel my own cognitive bias like running through that scenario in my mind. For some reason, it seems less newsworthy that Sophie wanted to be in a lesbian relationship than if a guy had wanted to be in a gay relationship.
100%. I think guys deal with that.
I can't work out why. I don't know why
time.
that's the case.
I don't think that. I actually had somebody write to me on the How Come page, and she was like, "You said that a guy can suck a dick once, and that doesn't make him gay." And I'm like, "Yeah, I believe that." Like, I think, like
the same way
first
though,
of all, it's a
Sophie doesn't want
spectrum.
to end up with a woman though.
Yeah.
So she doesn't consider herself bi.
100%. Okay, then that's fine.
Yeah.
But this girl was saying to me, once you, as a man only though, touch a member of the same sex, you are gay, you are not straight anymore. And with a woman, you can go back in and out.
I think that's a huge issue that like men are dealing with. Men are so hell bent on like hyper masculinity, like look how big my dick is, like all this stuff, and it's like it's toxic. It's toxic. It's sad for men.
I've dated briefly a guy who's 90% gay, 10% straight, and I loved it. So you guys should do it.
You've also always been attracted to gay guys.
I love like a smooth man. Silky. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's an issue that's not going to be fixed by Love Island or by anything.
Yeah.
I mean, the same way any TV show, any movie, any school, whatever it is, has those issues. Like, we all need to do better.
The U.S. show Are You the One, which is a dating show, actually has a new season coming out called Come One, Come All, where all the cast members are into both genders or all genders. And I think there should be a Love Byland
where everyone's bi and it's a free for all.
I mean, there's so much chaos at the moment. Like, just try. At least you know that it's only kind of like bi-directional, or at least you've got an idea of who's after who. Like, if you then need to, you multiply that to the power of 2. Like, that's just that's impossible.
Well,
they're doing it.
Remember the show Next? I don't know if you probably never see that. There was the show Next on MTV in like 2007 or something.
Yeah,
and you would have 5 contestants on a bus. Basically, each would go out, have a date, be sent back on the bus if
they were ugly. Like next, immediately.
But
oh my god,
yeah.
Then as time went on, they were like, you know, we should really do like have gay contestants on here, which sort of backfired though, because
then all the guys on the bus,
then they would say no, you know, go back to the bus, but then everyone just starts hooking up on the bus.
Fucking hell!
So the whole house, everyone would just be fucking here and there.
We said this on the relationships podcast. Like, if you think that guys going after girls is like, if you think that men are the sexual protagonists in a heterosexual relationship, like, imagine if the one limiting barrier that is a woman's choice gets removed. Like, it is no surprise that gay men do loads of fucking. Like, if you love fucking, you should just go gay.
Yeah,
like, because there's no one to say no anymore.
Yeah. And lesbians have more orgasms than straight women. So if you want to have more orgasms, start hooking up with ladies.
I mean, there's not going to be many humans left in a little while, but the brief period for the people that are alive right now, there's going to be loads of sex.
We got enough people in China to keep us covered.
Fine, yeah.
Yeah.
Chinese need to remain straight, but everyone else can turn.
Yeah.
Everyone else can be gay.
Okay, so the orgasms brings me to my question, which we ask on every episode. Do you remember your first orgasm? And if so, when was it? And tell us a bit.
No, but I can tell you about when I lost my virginity, if that counts.
Sure.
So this was on the way back from work. So I was 17, and I worked at a hotel that had an on-site restaurant. And there was a girl who was a year older than me, and she was giving me a lift home. And we went via an industrial estate. So I lost my virginity in a VW Lupo, which is the equivalent of like a Fiat 500. It is, I mean, if you want to try and turn up the level of complexity when you already
God.
there's quite a bit of complexity involved in sex, even for someone that's experienced. Then
Yeah.
it's your first time, and now you're doing it in somewhere which is probably about like 20 square feet of cubic capacity, like at most, and the seat doesn't go flat. And yeah, I mean, mercifully it was brief, I think, for everyone. But yeah, that was my first.
Had she had sex before? Probably.
What's that?
Had she had sex before?
Yes.
Yeah. She sounds ballsy to do it in a car.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
And like, had you been familiar with what was going to happen at the end, like for a few years already? Like, had you been hanging out with Chris?
Yeah, I mean, you're a boy, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
You start to play with your penis before you play
what
football,
your penis
don't
is.
you? Like,
Yeah. Most of our male guests had like dry orgasms first, like when they were little, just like humping pillows and stuff.
Yeah.
And and then the first.
Well, a lot of them are like 11 or 12.
Yeah. But you don't remember the first time it was like, what the fuck?
I'd estimate around there, but I can't.
Yeah.
My powers of recall aren't good enough to work that one out.
You didn't tell friends or anything. You kept it to yourself and then just kept going.
Yeah. I think the male, the normal route that men go on about their sexuality, especially until they start to grow up, is it's a very closed off topic to discuss. Like, it's especially before you can talk about it from that kind of lad perspective, where it almost becomes bragging.
Yeah.
Like at the age of 12, 13, like, you're not bragging, you're terrified
Practicing.
of what's happening to your body, and you're worried about whether or not your Final Fantasy account's going to get deleted.
Totally.
Like, that's what you're focusing on.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what I like about Love Island too, though. Compared to the U.S., I think the guys are way more in tune with their feelings and emotions, and way more outspoken than like most guys.
Jordan's the
I
first
know.
guy I think I saw cry on TV that I was like, whoa, like real men cry like that.
I love when
And then
guys
you
cry.
guys were fucking kissing each other goodbye, and I was like, I love this.
It's the best.
Gay.
It's just so normal. No,
It's not
This is
gay.
the
No,
first
it's
thing
not
I'm
gay.
missing out.
It's not. It's just more in tune and more empathetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's normal. And it's
Well, I
lovely.
think, again, with that, like, even on that episode, so I can talk about that. I was leaving, and I don't really know why I got so emotional about it, because I wasn't massively emotionally invested. Definitely not in any of the girls. I think I've said about 5 words to all of the girls since I left.
Yeah.
But like, I think most of it was the change of pace within a emotionally charged situation generally, and it's a very intense experience.
Definitely.
But even as that was happening, I hadn't done enough introspective work or self-inquiry to realize that the fact that I was feeling emotions was something to be proud of. And I was like, I was terrified of looking vulnerable on TV. And I was like, oh God, like, if I look like, you know, I've been crying or whatever, that's some form of weakness or whatever it is. And you're like, that was kind of the tip of the spear that reminded me, like, look, like, you really just need to work out what the fuck's going on. Because if there's an experience that keeps on manifesting itself, or that does manifest itself, and yet you're so combination of embarrassed, ashamed, nervous about being vulnerable to do with it, you really need to work out like what's happening.
Yeah.
And then, like, if I was to go on again, I'd be crying every day. Like, I'd be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and they'd probably send in somebody perfect for you, and they should have a Love Island All-Stars or something.
Yeah.
It'd be fun.
Still single Love Island. That
Still,
would be
yeah,
good.
All-Stars
Still
still single.
Doing our best.
Yeah. Do you have any more questions?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think I'm good. Oh, no, I have one more. Okay, so at the end of all the We Really Love Island episodes, we do a vocab lesson because you guys say words that we've never heard of. Is there anything in vogue right now that people are saying that we can get like ahead of the curve?
Oh, dear me. What's interesting is that because Love Island's quite London-centric, so if you look at where the majority of people are going to come from, it's going to be like Essex, London, down south, and the South Coast. So for Newcastle, if anyone wants to learn some new words, if you really want to expand your vocabulary, just watch a couple of episodes of Geordie Shore.
Oh, yeah, I've watched some.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, I liked Gaz
Right.
from X on the Beach, so I went back and I watched some Jersey Shore.
Yeah, so Geordie Shore is the equivalent of Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
But Geordie, so I'm slap bang in the middle of Newcastle right now, and Geordie is like one of the heaviest dialects. We're next to Scotland, so it's as far away from everything else as you can get. So there's a term called YI man.
YI?
YI man, yeah, which is, so YI is, it's an equivalent of come on, but you could also use it as a term to confirm something. So someone would say, are you coming out later on tonight? And you go, YI man.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
I'm so excited.
So there you go. You've got a new one.
All right. And then at the end of every episode of How Come, I have to ask, as a courteous host of a sexual experience, which this has been somewhat sexual, but more relationship-y.
Yeah.
But I got to ask anyway. Chris, did you finish?
Look at that face.
Yeah? Okay, perfect. Thank you for coming. We had the best time. Where can our listeners find you online and listen to your podcast?
So if you search Modern Wisdom, wherever you're listening now, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, wherever it might be. Mm-hmm. And if you search at Chris Will X on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever it is, feel free to get in touch. Yeah, it's been a pleasure, girls. It's been really fun. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, we had the best
so
time.
fun.
Thank you so much, Chris. Charlotte, where can everybody find you online?
You can find me on Twitter or Instagram at Sharkastic, like CharKastic.
Clever as hell. Lily, where can everybody find you?
I'm at Lils Michelle on Twitter and Instagram.
Perfect. And you can also hear Lily on season 2 of We Really Love Island. And you can hear Charlotte on season 2 of How Come. Charlotte, did you finish?
I did.
Lily, did you finish?
I always do.
All right, everyone. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you next time on Love Island.
And How Come?
And How Come. Goodbye. Bye, Chris.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone. Hey, guys. We know we really love Island.
How come? How come?
Do you? If you really love We Really Love Island,
How come? How come?
let us know.
Leave a rating and review and tell everybody you know to subscribe too.
And always remember that we're not affiliated with Love Island, ITV, CBS, or anything. We're not official anything. We're just 2 comedian girls. Thank you. Goodbye.
It's not you, it's me. I try so hard to finish honestly. They say you'll know when you go all the way from A right down to O. Oh no, I think that I still got a ways to go. Oh, I'm sick of this and I have got to know. How come? How come? How come I can't achieve? How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help. 'Cause I can't do it by myself. I wanna just